everyone, welcome back to A Wild Approach. My name is Macy Lou, and on this channel we talk about native plants, butterfly gardening, wildlife ponds, all kinds of wildlife garden related things. So if you are interested in that, you are in the right place. Also, before I go any further into this video, the disclaimer that I like to put in front of almost all of my videos now is me talking about when I say native, what do I mean? So first of all, I usually will provide the BONAP maps of each plant in each video. Maybe not always, especially if I'm talking about a general group of plants and not a specific species. However, I do usually provide those native ranges in green for those specific plants when I talk about them. So when I talk about native plants, I'm talking about the eastern United States. I'm talking about the Northeast, I'm talking about the Midwest, I'm talking about the Southeast, and sometimes the central United States. I'm very rarely going to really provide native plant content for the western states. So in other words, most of the plants that I talk about that happen to be native to the western part of the United States are usually because they are native over here as well. I am in East Tennessee. I am in the Ridge and Valley ecoregion, and so when I talk about native plants, most of the time the plants I talk about are native to me or native near me. But again, I cover sometimes the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, Central United States. So let's jump into this video. Alright guys, so the plant that I want to talk about today is Anise Hyssop, or Agastache funiculum, or Agastache funiculum. So why do I like Anise Hyssop so much? Well, this has been my first year growing Anise Hyssop, and let me tell you, it's been awesome. I've been loving it, and the reason for that is it's been attracting the swallowtail butterflies like mad. So the swallowtail butterflies that show up to my garden are typically kind of a come and go kind of situation, especially in the last few years. They come, they check out certain plants like bergamot or purple coneflower, and then they're kind of out of here. Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you are enjoying this content so that I can know what videos you all like the best. Now that's not to say that that's always the case. I've had swallowtail butterflies actually hang out and stick around in my garden for longer lengths of time in the past, especially on something like bergamot, wild bergamot, which is Monarda fistulosa, for example, but also purple coneflower, Echinacea purpurea, and I'm sure there are many others. You know, you've seen other videos that I have made on this topic, right? But this is the first year that I have grown Anise Hyssop, and I grew it from seed, and I have it growing in both pots as well as in the ground. I have some in Hummingbird Haven, I have some around the pond, and I have some in my container garden in the backyard. And I also have some in the courtyard garden. So I have planted it in multiple places, and I can tell you that from what I can tell, this plant is very drought tolerant, and it is very adaptable to these different situations, you know, in ground versus in a container. And not only does it attract these swallowtail butterflies, which, as you may or may not know, depending on if this is your first video you're watching, if this is your first video you're watching on my channel, welcome and thank you so much for being here. But if you've been watching a lot of my other content, you probably already know I started gardening for the swallowtail butterflies. That's what got me addicted to gardening, and it's what got me interested in native plants. So that is something that I'm always looking to get better at, is attracting the swallowtails and keeping them in the garden for as long as possible. Because I already have this beautiful system for the Gulf fritillary butterflies. The Gulf fritillary butterflies are more of a medium-sized butterfly. They're a little bit smaller than the swallowtails, obviously. But I have a lot of the native purple passion vine in my garden, Passiflora incarnata. And that vine really attracts them because they are the host plant for the Gulf fritillary butterfly. And they have loved my garden so much, both the vine and the Gulf fritillary butterfly, that I have gotten to witness the entire life cycle of the Gulf fritillary butterflies from start to finish. I have gotten to see them coming to the vine, laying eggs, and then the eggs hatching, and then the caterpillars eating the leaves and creating their chrysalis, and then a closing from their chrysalis. They'll make their chrysalises on my house, on my garden furniture, and so on. And I get to see the whole process. I've even seen them actually mating. And so this is a beautiful experience. It is a magical experience, especially if you are a butterfly lover like myself, and if you're just a wildlife lover in general. So to experience this whole process is just something else, and I can't really say that I have experienced this with the swallowtails yet. And that is unfortunate, and I understand that, it's a really special thing, and it's kind of hard to see the entire process of some of these creatures because some of them are really good at hiding, and they're really good at being hidden and kept hidden. So they're trying to protect themselves from predators, and this helps them stay safe. And so I understand it's difficult, but my goal now, because I'm always shifting my goals around because that's what we all do as humans, right, is now I would love to see the swallowtails, whatever species of swallowtails I can do this with. I would like to see their entire cycle, from start to finish, from laying the eggs, the caterpillar stage, the chrysalis stage, all the way to a closing, and so on. And I feel like the best method to get there is to provide host plants, multiple host plants for that species of butterfly, and also the nectar-rich plants that they are attracted to as well. And I have other videos that you can check out where I talk about how to attract butterflies in general, and I cover a lot of things. Some of them are unexpected. If you are new to butterfly gardening, there are some things in there that you might be like, oh, I didn't even know about that, which is really cool. That's something I love about gardening, is we can always uncover these things we just didn't know existed or didn't know were a thing, and just that constant learning is something I love, but I digress. So I want to see the entire life cycle of a swallowtail in the same sense that I get to see the Gulf fritillaries, up close, personal, the chrysalis, the mating, all of it. And it can be a challenge, actually. So I want to just say that the reason I'm making this video is because I feel like the longer they can stay in the garden, the longer the butterfly is persuaded to stay in the garden, so to speak, the more likely you are to see them mating and laying eggs and, creating this entire life cycle. So, that being said, what is so special about Anise Hyssop? Well, Anise Hyssop is one of those plants that creates these spikes of purple blooms, and they are beautiful, but I'm not even necessarily growing it for their beauty. I'm growing it for that attraction that they have for the swallowtails. And let me tell you, this year has proved, the proof is in the pudding with these plants, okay? I have had at least 3 or 4 different eastern tiger swallowtails attracted to one of my Anise Hyssop plants. Now, I am focusing on this one Anise Hyssop plant because it is something I can see easily from my back kitchen window. It's not hard to kind of keep watch on it. Every day I can walk by that window and I can check it out and see what is on it. And what I have found is that the eastern tiger swallowtail in my garden, that particular species of swallowtail, is especially attracted to Anise Hyssop for whatever reason. And another interesting thing I found, and of course this is all anecdotal, this is one woman's garden in East Tennessee and one Anise Hyssop plant. So this is not a scientific experiment by any means, but what I've seen is that so far it's mostly been male eastern tiger swallowtails. Not exclusively. I've seen what I believe to be a female on it as well, but most of the swallowtails on it have been male eastern tiger swallowtails, and I just find that really fascinating. So, that being said, I did see what I believe to be a female on it as well, which would mean there is some kind of level of potential for mating to occur in front of me, right? And that is something that is special to me. I know this isn't for everybody. This is like me nerding out. If you're not enjoying this video, feel free to come back to the next one next time, but I'm nerding out in this video for sure. That being said, I did catch a glimpse of two different, I don't know if they were both females, both males, or a female and a male. I don't know. I'm going to have to review the footage. You hopefully will get to see it in this video if I caught the clip. Now, what I mean by did I catch the clip is right after I got the camera in position and I got everything ready, there were two eastern tiger swallowtails on it, but one of them flew away like pretty quickly after I got everything set up. And this is something that has been a challenge is, that's me being inside at the window. It would be even worse if I was outside up close to them because you're more likely to scare them away. It can be done. Some of them aren't scared of us, but some of them are extremely skittish. So I try to do a lot of my footage from the window actually and zoom way in with this camera right here and try to capture it that way because less likely to scare them off. But even so, even though I'm inside and they don't even know I'm there, one of them flew off of the plant for whatever reason. Maybe it was after a different flower, and sometimes when they fly off, they will fly back. So keep that in mind when you are doing any level of butterfly gardening or butterfly watching. They may fly back to the plant that they left. So try to be as still as you can, especially when you're outside up close with them. And maybe they will come back to the plant, but they won't always come back to the plant. Before I get too far into the weeds about the details of the eastern tiger swallowtails using this plant for food, I'm going to go ahead and tell you more about Anise Hyssop because I know a lot of you are probably chomping at the bit to hear more about the plant and you're like, gosh, please get to the point. So I'm going to do that first, and then I'll get more into detail about the butterflies after. So Anise Hyssop gets about 2 to 4 feet tall and 1.5 to 3 feet wide. It blooms somewhere between June and September, and it has lavender to purple blooms on it. And the leaves smell really good, in my opinion, at least. It likes full sun to part shade and dry to medium soil. It's good for herb gardens and naturalizing. It has showy flowers that are good cut flowers, and they're also good as dried flowers. It attracts hummingbirds and butterflies, and that's why I put it in Hummingbird Haven as well. Unfortunately, Hummingbird Haven is on the outside of my garden fence, and therefore it is not viewable from the window anymore now that everything has gotten lush and grown in and really started to create that hedge effect. I really wanted that, but I can't really see it from my living room window anymore. So that is another reason that that plant in that garden is not a subject of this video, because I just don't have the ability to just sit there and watch it all the time and camp out on my driveway and just like zoom in on it and keep track of it. It would be way too hot and too miserable to do that. So instead, I'm going off of my backyard through my kitchen window. That Anise Hyssop in that container. It's in a big container that I have on wheels. Anise Hyssop tolerates deer, drought, and dry soil. So, before we get into the butterfly stuff, let's look at the native range of Anise Hyssop in the green, according to boneapp.org. And as you can see, it's not native to my state of Tennessee, but it's native north of me, and then it's also native south of me a little bit. So even though it's technically not native to my state, I consider this, quote, native enough. And yeah, I use that term sometimes because I'm like, okay, I get it, it's not technically native. But it's something that can work in our area, and it attracts our native butterflies. So the fact that it's native to Kentucky, I'm just like, Kentucky's right above me. That's close enough to me. I mean, when I go to Kentucky, it's very similar to here. So that is just the way that I kind of look at it. If you want to have a different viewpoint on it, that's obviously your choice. That's totally fine. I'm kind of lenient about when something's native, close by, but not native to my state. Guys, thank you so much for supporting this channel. If you want to further support this channel, you can pick up some art prints from me or original artwork at macylou.com/shop. Again, that's macylou.com/shop. MACEYLOU.com/shop. Anyway, again, I'm not a purist. I don't have only 100% native plants in my garden. I have some things that aren't native to the country. But I do focus on native plants, and I focus on plants that are native nearby because, again, they're just better for our local wildlife because that's what they evolved with. So, now for the fun part. This is one of my new favorite plants. It's not because I think it's the prettiest plant. I really don't think Anise Hyssop is the prettiest plant in the world. I just don't. It's pretty, but it's not my favorite when it comes to aesthetics. It is very attractive in the sense that it is a well-behaved plant in the sense of how it, in my opinion, its form. I'm not saying it's well-behaved in its spread because I have no idea about the seed spread yet. I have no idea, but I'm going to find out. Because this is my first year growing it, so I haven't had a chance to see it reseed itself and how it behaves in the garden and how much it does self-seed. So I have no experience with that yet. So if you need that information, you're going to have to look elsewhere, unfortunately. But I will find out. That being said, it's well behaved in the sense of its form. It, in my garden at least, is behaving in this very upright way, this very attractive, I don't know, it just fits the spot you put it in so well. And it doesn't flop over, but it's its first year. It has time to misbehave in the years to come and to fall over and to do all of the things that drive us kind of crazy sometimes, right? But that being said, the length of time the butterflies are on this plant. I observed one of these eastern tiger swallowtails staying on this plant for hours. Hours, okay? And that is always a really good sign that this plant is something that if it's native or native enough or native close by to you, that it is a really good plant for your local butterflies. And what I noticed is that there was an interesting dynamic to it. Like, you can see how much do these butterflies really love this plant. And I'll tell you how much they love this plant. These eastern tiger swallowtails love Anise Hyssop so much, specifically this one, so much that they will stay on the plant or near the plant in a rainstorm. So one of them stayed on this plant while the rains were coming down. And I was waiting. I was like, are you going to fly for shelter? You're going to fly away to a better shelter. You're going to go under a tree, under a shrub, under a big leaf of a tulip poplar, for example. Are you going to leave the Anise Hyssop and go to better shelter? And no, this butterfly in particular stayed on the Anise Hyssop and just held on for dear life to the Anise Hyssop through this storm. And it started out pretty slow, pretty just like some rain, some gentle rain, and then the rain got intense and it just kept getting more and more intense. And I was like, oh no, should I go help this butterfly? Should I go put it in my garage and give it shelter until the storm? And I didn't. I just waited and I watched because I wanted to see what would happen. And so this butterfly was nectaring on this plant for hours, and then a storm came. And the storm it kept going for quite some time. I don't know the exact amount of time, but it kept going for quite a while. And that butterfly stayed on that plant for a long time. And when the rains stopped coming down, and my husband and I went outside to just kind of check on it, see what's up. And I also wanted to get some close-ups of it. So I got some close-ups of it. and it was still holding on to the plant. And I don't know, I guess I thought that these butterflies were more delicate than they really are, because when I see their wings, sometimes their wings are all tore up, and sometimes I'm like, are they getting attacked by a lizard or a bird, and then their wing is getting ripped, or is it like rain, and is it like storms and wind? And I don't know, but I will say that this butterfly is way tougher than I expected, because when I went up close to it after this crazy storm, lots of intensity, its wings were fine, and it already had rips from some other situation before it ever even came to my garden, right? But it didn't have any new damage, and the rain just beat it up on its wings like it was waterproof. And I was like, wait a minute. I just didn't realize how resilient these butterflies were. I thought they had to like hunker way down, and they do. Some of them do that. Some of them do shelter a little bit more under bigger leaves. Some of them do that. But this particular one was just like holding on and just waiting it out and just waiting out the storm. Not really in much of shelter. And what was cool is its wings. It would kind of like move its wings like out certain directions and ways and positions that were fascinating to me as well. And the little bees were on the hyssop too in the storm, and getting rained on, getting all wet, like how a dog's fur looks when it's wet. It kind of looked like that, the bees. But it was just so cool, because like, I know they can survive a lot, but at the same time, I always thought that they sheltered a little bit more deeply, a little bit more tucked in, and a lot of them do, don't get me wrong, but this one was like, no, I love this Anise Hyssop so much I'm gonna stay on this plant through the storm. So fast forward to me seeing another eastern tiger swallowtail on a whole different day on the same Anise Hyssop, and it too was like all over this hyssop for hours and hours and hours, nectaring on it. And then a big intense storm came, and it didn't stay on the Anise Hyssop. So I was like, oh no, it's going to leave the entire area. But no, it sheltered just feet away in a silky dogwood / under the silver maple canopy. So it did go to a more deep shelter, but it was still kind of out in the open. It wasn't like super sheltered way under a bunch of things, but it had some shelter under these leaves of these shrubs and trees. And it just hunkered down under these leaves of these shrubs and trees until the storm was over, I suppose. I actually had to stop watching it because I had to just go and, I had to take care of things. I don't know if it was making dinner or chores. I don't know what it was, but I had to like leave the window and actually get some stuff done over there. And so I didn't actually get to see what it did at the end of the storm, but I checked on it multiple times, and it was in that spot for a long time, just feet away from the hyssop. So that is a really interesting lesson for me. Anise hyssop is one of those plants that will keep the swallowtails in your garden for quite a long time, even in a storm. And even if they leave the Anise hyssop, they may go for shelter really close by. So I just wanted to talk about this because I think that a lot of you are here for the butterfly gardening, and a lot of you are also here for the native plants. And this is where they intersect. This is a native plant, depending on where you live, that can provide so much value to the butterflies, and specifically the swallowtails, and even more specifically the eastern tiger swallowtails. Now, I have some spicebush swallowtail caterpillars on my sassafras right now in that same area of the garden, in the back garden, on a very young sassafras tree, and I'm really excited, but I'm also curious. I don't know if they're going to make it to the chrysalis stage, but if they do, I hope they make it to the adult stage, and if they do, I'm really curious to see if they're going to go over to that Anise hyssop, which is just feet away from the sassafras, and use it, because the eastern tiger swallowtails love it. Why wouldn't the spicebush swallowtails love it? But I will report back if I have any new information, anything else to report. But I hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know your experience of Anise Hyssop. What kind of activity have you seen on it? And keep in mind that when I talk about all this butterfly activity, that I am in the city, and so I already see lower butterfly activity in general here than I would if I lived in a rural area. So keep that in mind when I talk about numbers. 3, 4 may not sound like a lot, and 2 at once may not sound like a lot, especially if you live in the countryside. You're going to see probably quadruple what I see where you live, probably. But that being said, it's a big deal here and in comparison to what I've seen in other areas of the garden and on other plants. So don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. If you watched this far, I think you probably enjoyed it, unless you hate watched it. And hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on upcoming videos, and the notification bell, because that's really how you know you're going to get notified. I mean, let's be real. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day and have fun in your garden. Bye, everyone. I hate saying goodbye. Do you need a short, quick guide to get started in wildlife gardening? Well, turns out I've got just the thing. I just came out with a new free ebook just for you, and it's called A Wild Approach to Gardening 101, and it's available on my website today at macylu.com/shop. It's free, so go check it out. What do you have to lose? Hey guys, don't forget to follow me on Blue Sky and Instagram. These are the 2 best social media accounts other than YouTube, where you can find me and you can see me post photos of the garden, thoughts on wildlife, and more. So don't forget to follow me over there. Brand new items are now available in the shop. Thanks so much to viewers like you for supporting the channel. To support the channel, like the video, comment, and subscribe. You can also support my work by buying art from me at macylu.com. Thanks for watching!